Waikuchi Kakasa, Waikuchi Fate. How are you all? Welcome to the Kiran Rai Show. Hope you guys have been keeping well and keeping safe. Now, अगले हफ्ते से गल्ला बातें करते सी about men's emotions, and ये जो topic है काफी दिलचस्प है, and not many people talk about men's emotions because men's emotions ਜਦੋਂ ਆਪਾਂ ਦੇਖਿਆ ਜਾਵੇ ਤਾਂ ਕਾਫੀ ਇਹਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਕਵਰ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਹੈ. Is not just about depression, anxiety, ਰਿਸ਼ਤਿਆਂ ਤੇ ਵੀ ਗੱਲ ਆਉਂਦੀ ਹੈ ਤਾਂ ਕਈ ਵਾਰੀ ਲਾਈਫ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਕਾਫੀ ਉਤਰਾਅ ਚੜਾਅ ਆ ਜਾਂਦੇ ਆ ਐਂਡ ਜਦੋਂ ਅਸੀਂ ਦੇਖਦੇ ਆ ਆਪਾਂ ਜਦੋਂ ਕੁੜੀਆਂ ਵਾਲਾ ਦੇਖਦੇ ਆ ਜਾਂ ਔਰਤਾਂ ਵਾਲਾ ਦੇਖਦੇ ਆ they're quite strong and even guys are strong but usually girls can seem to somehow to deal with it a lot more differently to guys. When we talk about girls tend to cry about it, talk about it, and most girls will do that. Whereas most guys won't be able to do that if they're not in touch with their sensitive, their actual sensitive side. They won't actually talk about it, and it's really important to get all your emotions out because if you don't, that can often lead to depression, anxiety, health problems, stress. काफी कुछ हो सकता है life ਵਿੱਚ. So it's really important to talk about that. And today we have Prabjot joining us back on the show to carry on with what we were talking about last week, but to talk about it in more detail, so we can help all of you guys, to feel better in life and achieve better in life. Because the Kiran Rai Show is all about inspiring others to live a happier and healthier life. Prabjot, welcome back to the show. Thank you so much for joining us today. How are you? You okay?
I'm amazing, thank you. Thank you for having me back on.
That's
And I'm
okay.
great, thank you.
ਆਪਾਂ ਪਿਛਲੀ ਹਫਤੇ ਗੱਲ ਕਰਦੇ ਸੀ about men's emotions and we covered quite a lot but ਅੱਜ ਵੀ ਕਾਫੀ ਕੁਝ ਹੈਗਾ ਕਿ ਜਿਹਦਾ ਅਸੀਂ ਕਵਰ ਕਰਨਾ ਚਾਹੁੰਦੇ ਆ and ਆਪਾਂ ਜਦੋਂ ਗੱਲ ਕਰਦੇ ਸੀਗੇ ਕਿ how ਕਈਆਂ ਕੋ ਆਪਾਂ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਸੀਗੇ ਕਿ ਕਈ for some guys there's not ਸਾਰੇ ਕੋ friend circle ਨਹੀਂ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਹੈਗਾ. Not everybody is lucky enough to have big groups and ਜਿੱਦਾਂ ਜਿੱਦਾਂ ਅਸੀਂ ਵੱਡੇ ਹੁੰਦੇ ਕਈਆਂ ਦਾ ਜਿਹੜਾ circle ਹੁੰਦਾ ਆ ਉਹ ਛੋਟਾ ਤੇ ਛੋਟਾ ਹੋ ਜਾਂਦਾ ਹੈ. And as that happens, most people, not just men in generally, but most people feel, quite isolated and quite alone. And that happens with men as well. And when men feel that they don't often talk about it to people, which I think it is quite sad that they don't talk about it because men need as much support as women do, and so they don't really talk about it. So if they haven't got that circle or they haven't got anybody to go to or they don't feel comfortable talking to their family, their brothers and sisters, ਜਾਂ ਕੋਈ cousin ਹੋਵੇ ਤੇ ਉਹ ਕੋਈ ਹੋਵੇ ਨਾ, what can they do? How can they get that all those emotions out of their systems? Where can they go? How can they deal with it?
I can speak from personal experience. So the way that I have been able to deal with certain emotions and understand and reflect upon myself, it's firstly, lucky for me, I went to a Sikh school. So I went to Kiran Sikh school. So I've always had the presence of Guru Sahib around me. And even in the household, we've always had, like, parents always tell us, like, oh, make sure your Sikh is on point. So when I used to deal with stuff, my first way is always to kind of go to Guru Sahib and seek kind of advice. So if you are going through something, you can take a hukamnama, you can kind of reflect on what the Guru is saying and reflect on the Guru's word. So that was really beneficial for me. This is when I didn't have someone to speak to, but lucky for me, I've always had people to speak to. But if you're going through that phase, definitely allowed me to kind of explore that a little bit more because when you're in pain and when you got no one else to go to, the best thing to go to is the true source for yourself, for the truth, for the eternal truth, which will help you and guide you. Other things you can do is obviously work on yourself. Me being a writer slash poet, I've always kind of expressed my emotions through poetry. So think of it like this. In physics, we always learn about the conservation of energy. Like, energy cannot be destroyed, it is always transferred. So for example, when you pick up a pen, it's like you are taking those emotions and you're literally flowing it through that ink into a pen. I know if you look at Inquisitive, who's quite popular in the Sikh space when it comes to artwork, he's always spoken about how he was kind of bullied and etc. and how he used to use that as inspiration and take it into artwork. So you can use any sort of creative medium and that you have a talent within and you can express it through there. So if you have no one to speak to, just know you always have Guru Sahib to speak to, because Guru Sahib is the
Mm,
best person to have a conversation with.
mm,
Um, then if you've got emotions that you want to write down, but you don't want to say to another person because you're afraid of how it might affect them and their relationships and how it might impact them, because it's not nice. Obviously, sometimes people are not ready to hear the truth. Some people might not be ready. So what you want to do, what you don't want to do, is pass on a thing which might be more destructive to them. So if you're coming from a state of compassion, like you don't really want to have a conversation with this person because they're not ready to have a conversation with about this, because you've tried multiple times, but it doesn't work. And what you can do is, instead of holding that emotion in, let it out. Conservation of energy, let it out. Transfer it into something more creative. Put it into a writing format, put it into poetry, put it into your artwork, put it into anything. Or if you're a fan of going gym, take it out on the
mm,
gym. Play football, be active. And being active is a part of Sikhi lifestyle anyways, because we're all supposed to be fit and healthy and doing what we need to do. So find what you have a passion for. So first step is go to Guru Sahib. Second step is find what you have a passion for. What are your creative talents? And go through that, because that's something that's helped me.
mm. And in terms of, I've got also friends as well. So we have brothers and stuff, and we also have males in our family as well. And
Mm-hmm.
often देखा जाता है कि, there's, for people that everyone that's watching the show today, I also want to say that, there are, for, of course, Prabjot, you've kind of gone by your experience, but there's also other ways to kind of deal with it. Journaling, कईयां ले आसान नहीं हुंदा हैगा कि we talk about our emotions. Some people, like we said in our previous episode, for some guys, that are in touch with their feminine side, just sensitive ਹੋਣ ਉਹ ਕਈ ਵਾਰੀ ਗੱਲ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੇ ਆ, they can talk openly, ਉਹ ਖੁੱਲੀ ਕਿਤਾਬ ਵਾਂਗਰ ਹੁੰਦੇ ਆ, so it's easier for them to process because they're getting it out of their
Mm-hmm.
system. Whereas for most guys, it's not as that simple, and some guys may feel embarrassed, some guys may feel shy, some guys may feel, oh, it's just, it's mesh area, so ਏਦਾਂ ਨਹੀਂ ਕੋਈ ਗੱਲ ਨਹੀਂ ਮੈਂ ਕਿਸੇ ਕੋ ਕਰ ਸਕਦਾ because ਜੇ ਮੈਂ ਗੱਲ ਕੀਤਾ ਤੇ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ they're going to think badly of me. But ਏਦਾਂ ਦੀ ਕੋਈ ਗੱਲ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੁੰਦੀ. So to all the sangat that's watching, something that I want to also add to what Prabjot's saying, from experience, from all friends and family that I have in my life, anybody that I've seen that also gone through, there are support groups out there. There are, you can buy a journal that no one needs to see. You can write down and, just verbally kind of get it out of your system, like Prabjot has said. And ik gal hor, you can go to the Gurdwara, Guru Sahib ਦੇ ਘਰ ਜਾਓ, ਜੇ ਕੋਈ ਹੋਰ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੈਗਾ ਗੱਲ ਕਰਨੇ ਨੂੰ, ਜੇ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਨੇ, ਜੇ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਨਾ ਜੇ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਇੱਕ ਕਦਮ ਰੱਖਦੇ ਆ ਮਹਾਰਾਜ ਦੇ ਸਾਹਮਣੇ, ਉਹ ਮੋਰੇ ਚਾਰ ਕਦਮ ਰੱਖਦੇ ਨੇ. So, when you step in front of the Guru, go to Guru Kar house and just sit there. You don't need to talk to anyone else. Just sit there. Even if you don't know the language, just sit there and talk to Waiguji in English, and just talk to him and speak to Waiguji about your emotions, about your feelings of what you're feeling, and listen to that Gurbani going in. When you hear that and when you step outside, oh, navi shanti man ch lag ke aande. So there's so many things that you can actually do. And for all those, you can actually even go to the gym. There's Prabjot, there's always activities and stuff like that at the gym, isn't there, when people go to do yoga or spinning classes. And ਉੱਥੇ ਵੀ ਜਾ ਕੇ, you can ਹੌਲੀ 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 ਦੋਸਤੀ ਬਣ ਸਕਦੀ, ਜੋ ਦੋਸਤੀ ਬਣਾਣੀ ਇੱਕਦਮ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੈਗਾ ਕਿ ਇੱਕ ਦਿਨ ਚ ਦੋਸਤੀ ਬਣ ਜਾਂਦੀ ਹੈ ਨਾ ਪ੍ਰਭਜੋਤ. A lot of people do mistake that, don't they, when
Yes.
whether that's guys or girls. I know we're talking about men's emotions, but generally speaking, even the guys feel like ਜਿਨ੍ਹਾਂ ਕੋ ਨਹੀਂ ਕੋਈ friend ਹੈਗਾ ਜਾਂ ਕੋਈ ਹੈ ਨਹੀਂ ਜਿਨ੍ਹਾਂ ਉਹ ਗੱਲ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੇ ਆ. Men, ਜਦੋਂ ਕੋਈ ਵੀ, if a guy approaches them or a girl approaches them as a friend and they're there as a helping hand or there to talk, ਕਈ ਲੋਕੀ ਸੋਚਦੇ ਆ ਕਿ ਚੱਲ okay ਹੁਣ because they're in that mindset state and they're really upset or they're down, ਤਾਂ ਕੋਈ ਹੈ ਨਹੀਂਗਾ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਜਦੋਂ ਕੋਈ ਮਿਲਦਾ ਆ ਉਹ ਕਹਿ ਦਿੰਦੇ ਆ, right, I'm going to cling on to this person now because I've spoken to them today and I'm going to keep talking, and then eventually it just fizzles up because to build a friendship with someone, it takes time. Do you agree?
Absolutely. I think I'm just going to quickly recap a point that you were saying as well. When it comes to Guru
Mm,
Sahib, like you might not understand it in Punjabi or Gurmukhi, but you may understand it in English. So even if you look at the Hukam from today, it talks about the Guru actually destroys pain and suffering. So remember the one in
mm,
meditation. So you can take that kind of idea and you can kind of reflect upon that. And something that you were saying, and we were talking about, is like releasing energy. So one other thing that you
mm.
can add, which is a big stigma within the male community, it's talking to a mental health counselor. Like for example,
Yeah.
picking up the phone and actually speaking to someone that's a professional in this. That's what their paid job is. Or there's so many free NHS ones that you can go to. There's a Sikh charity called Seek Your Mind, so you can actually pick up the call and speak to someone, because it's a lot
Mm,
more comfortable to speak to someone that doesn't know you, because you know that they're going to come from a place of judgment. So if you are going through something
mm,
and you need someone to speak to, Guru Sai for me will always be number one. So that's my go-to
mm,
source. But let's just say if you're in a situation like a friend of mine who was at that similar stage whereby it was either die right now or speak to someone. Luckily for him, he had someone that just said, because he wasn't listening to his family at that time, he just said, someone just said, "Oh, call this number." And if he didn't call
mm,
that number, he was at the point where he literally had decided that he's going to pick up a gun and shoot himself. So when
mm,
it comes down to traumas and energies, it is very, very important that we're in touch with those emotions so we know how it feels, so it doesn't lead to that. Because if we don't deal with our traumas, past, etc., now, then our future relationships are. And our future relationship will actually cause us more depression, more anxiety, more. And it's just going to be more and more of that. So learn to deal with your emotions straight away. So when you have something, just deal with it straight away. If you need to speak to someone, just speak to someone. That's what I would say.
mm. And also, just another thing that as an analogy, and we everybody knows this analogy. So, you know, to everyone that's actually watching, we have when we go on go onto a flight, ਜਦੋਂ ਅਸੀਂ flight ਫੜਦੇ ਆ, ਅਸੀਂ ਜਹਾਜ਼ ਤੇ ਚੜ੍ਹਦੇ ਆ, ਪਹਿਲੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਇਹ ਹੋਸਟ ਹੁੰਦੇ ਆ, ਅਸੀਂ ਦੇਖਦੇ ਹੁੰਦੇ ਇਹ ਹੋਸਟ ਵਾਲਿਆਂ ਨੇ ਇਹ ਵਰਦੀ ਪਾ ਕੇ ਖੜੇ ਹੁੰਦੇ ਆ, ਤਾਂ ਕੋਈ ਵੀ ਜਦੋਂ ਜਹਾਜ਼ ਚੜ੍ਹਨੇ ਤੋਂ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਉਹ ਨਾ ਪੰਜ ਸੇਫਟੀ ਪ੍ਰੋਸੀਜਰਸ ਕਰਦੇ ਹੁੰਦੇ ਆ ਕਿ ਜੇ ਪਲੇਨ ਕ੍ਰੈਸ਼ ਹੋ ਜਾਵੇ ਜਾਂ ਏਦਾਂ ਹੋ ਜਾਵੇ, ਮਾਸਕ ਇੱਥੋਂ ਡਿੱਗਦਾ ਆ, ਹਨਾ, ਤਾਂ ਆਪਣੇ ਤੇ ਪਾਉਣਾ ਆ ਜਾਂ ਲਾਈਫ ਜੈਕਟ ਪਾਉਣੀ ਆ, and they go through all of those motions, but they always say you have to put the mask on yourself first before you can put the mask on anyone else. Meaning ਕਿ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਆਪਣੇ ਜੇ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਆਪ ਨਹੀਂ ਲੁੱਕ ਆਫਟਰ ਕਰੋਗੇ, ਜੇ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਮਾਸਕ ਨਾ ਪਾਇਆ, ਤੁਸੀਂ ਹੋਰ ਕਿਸੇ ਦੀ ਹੈਲਪ ਕਰਦੇ, ਭਾਵੇਂ ਬੱਚਾ ਹੋਵੇ ਜਾਂ ਹੋਰ ਕੋਈ ਹੋਵੇ ਹੜਬੜੀ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ, ਕਿ ਅਸੀਂ ਉਹਦਾ ਮਾਸਕ ਪਾ ਦਈਏ, ਆਪਣਾ ਚਿੱਤਾ ਭੁਲਾ ਦਈਏ, ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਕਿੱਦਾਂ ਕਿੱਦਾਂ ਪਤਾ ਕਿ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਹੋਰ ਕਿਸੇ ਦਾ ਮਾਸਕ ਪਾ ਸਕਦੇ ਕਿ ਨਹੀਂ, when you're not going to be able to breathe because you're not helping yourself. So it's really important, and I think many women don't even understand, even girls, I've known so many girls who, always think, I'm the girl, I'm the princess. So ਜੋ ਮੈਂ ਕਹਿੰਦੀ ਆ ਉਹੀ ਸਹੀ ਆ, ਉਹੀ ਕਰਨਾ ਚਾਹੀਦਾ ਆ, ਮੇਰੀ ਸੁਣੋ, ਮੇਰੀ ਚੱਲਦੀ ਆ. They don't really think about the guy, or they have emotions, or ਘਰ ਵਾਲੇ ਨਹੀਂ ਦੇਖਦੇ ਹੈਗੇ ਕਿ guys have emotions too. They are human as well, and they also need to feel they also need to feel feelings. And often ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ feelings ਹੁੰਦੇ, emotion ਹੁੰਦੇ, ਉਹ ਦੱਬੇ ਜਾਂਦੇ ਨੇ, and that's quite dangerous. So for even for women, not saying I'm against women, because I'm a woman myself, and to be a woman, we're all strong as much as we are as men, we're human beings. But at the same time, it's really important to understand that guys have emotions too, and we need to appreciate that if they're going through something, let them go through their emotion, and just be there to support them. Don't always don't always be the person to kind of suppress the emotion, because that's quite dangerous. Now, Prabjot, talking about emotions, there's so many people go through, like we said, utar chadhav aande ਰਹਿੰਦੇ ਜ਼ਿੰਦਗੀ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ, ਹੈ ਨਾ?
Mhm.
And the type of emotions that people go through are very different. And every whether it's guy or whether it's a girl, even though we are talking about men in general, because we find men don't talk about their emotions, and it's really hard for them to express themselves. Why is that? Why do, when they have these emotions, whether it's, a hardship that they're going through, ਘਰ ਵਿੱਚ ਕੋਈ ਔਖੀ ਆ ਗਈ, ਕੋਈ ਤੰਗੀ ਆ ਗਈ ਆ, they don't want to talk about it, or ਕੋਈ ਦਿਲ ਕਿਸੇ ਦਾ ਟੁੱਟਿਆ ਜਾਂ ਕੋਈ ਰਿਸ਼ਤਾ ਟੁੱਟਿਆ ਜਾਂ ਫਿਰ ਕੁਝ ਵੀ ਹੋਵੇ ਜਾਂ ਕੋਈ ਡੈਥ ਆ ਜਾਵੇ ਫੈਮਿਲੀ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ, ਜਿਹੜੇ ਬੰਦੇ ਹੁੰਦੇ ਆ ਉਹ ਗੱਲ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਰਦੇ ਹੈਗੇ. So, and it's kind of seen as, with society, you're the man, so just suck it up, it's fine, why, how, why is it that guys find it so hard to talk about their emotions and to kind of deal with that? Why is it so hard for them?
Sorry, I just had a call come through. I just had to cancel twice, so I'm not sure what happened there. If I go offline, I will come back on. So why do guys find it hard? Again, it's all about programming. It's all about understanding yourself and how you've been raised. What are your conscious and subconscious thoughts and how you've been programmed? It always comes down to that. And how much pride and ego do you have? Are you someone that's going to surrender and have acceptance towards, you know what, I have emotions and I need to accept them and I need to feel them? And I need to be open to speaking the truth that I have these emotions and speak to someone that I can trust. A lot of the time, it just comes down to denial. Sorry, I just want to know if you're still there.
Yeah, of course, I'm still here.
Oh, sorry. My phone's just playing up. And something that you were talking about earlier, it kind of raised a thought within my head, especially when it comes down to the safety procedures of putting the mask on yourself first before you put it on someone else. A lot of times that can be deemed as selfish, but looking after yourself is not selfish at all. So because if you haven't sorted your emotions out, if you haven't dealt with certain things yourself, how are you going to help someone else deal with them? So it's okay for you to prioritize yourself when you're in that state, when you've gone through a trauma, when you've gone, if there's a death in the family, if something is going to bring out negative emotions within you. So it's okay for you to feel that. Just give me a second. So yeah, it's okay for you to feel that. So if you are feeling with that, just learn to deal with it rather than trying to impress your friends, impress others into thinking that, oh, you're so macho that you can just, you're invisible, you're the Iron Man, you're literally like a superhero where you don't have emotions. Having emotions, it's okay. It's a part of life. It's a part of who you are. Just because you're in denial doesn't make you a bigger man. Just because you're denying these emotions, just because you're accepting of these emotions and you show the feminine side and you show the fact that if you cry, a lot of times as a male, like if you cry, you're deemed as someone that's weak. If you cry, it doesn't mean that you're weak. It just means that these are the emotions that humans have and it's okay to have them. So it's acceptance of who you are as an individual. And as humans, we have emotions, whether you're a male or a female. In the language of Sikh, we're all soul brides. So we all have a soul. So if you learn to see yourself through a soul rather than, hey, I'm a man, I'm a female, because everything that happens in the mind. And in the mind, you have the kind of like it's deemed as the creative side versus the analytical side. The analytical side is always referred to as being manly. The creative side is the emotion side is always deemed to the feminine energy. But we have both. There's a reason that we have both. So understand that and accept that. It's the science of the brain. So you're going to have emotions. So the best thing you can do is just have the acceptance towards, okay, I'm feeling this way. Let me deal with it. Rather than thinking about, oh, do you know what? This is society programming. This is what my friends are going to think. Who cares? Like you said, like we were talking about before, your friends that you had when you were like, let's just say in primary school are not currently your set of friends. You're very lucky if you have them. But most generally, if you speak to the general population, about 95% of them, friends change. So if they're going to change, why are you so worried about them in the first place? Okay, so this is when you have to learn to be selfish in a way where it's benefiting you and benefiting your growth rather than thinking about what other people are saying. So that's what I would say to that.
And
So,
I know so two questions before we come to the end of the show.
mhm.
And just we'll be wrapping up very, very shortly. So just two questions. How, as a guy, when you are going through all those emotions, how do you kind of take care of yourself? How do you learn to love yourself? Because for girls, sadly, we can kind of talk to people. We find ways and methods to kind of learn to pick ourselves back up, learn to kind of love ourselves. But from a guy's point of view, as a guy, how is it difficult? And if it is, how do you kind of learn to love yourself again?
Again, for me, I didn't find it difficult to love myself. Um, it's just probably the way that I've been raised and the wisdom that I've been raised with. Whereas, yes, a lot of my friends, they do find it hard to kind of love themselves because you always think that something's wrong with you. I did feel like that at a certain point. I was just like, okay, what's wrong with me? Like, am I not good enough? So you will have those thoughts when you go through a relationship, which is quite detrimental. But then again, you can just kind of snap out of it and just say, you know what? Maybe there's something to be learned. So the way that I've come across it is like, okay, what do I learn from this? Not, okay, what do I lack? It's like, I think about, okay, what did I learn from this experience? So when you channel your thoughts into something a little bit more productive, it can help you. But a lot of males, what they tend to do, you can go down a negative spiral as well. So a lot of my friends, let's just say, that have gone through a breakup, they will have those thoughts where they feel like, you know what, maybe I'm unworthy, maybe this wasn't for me, maybe I'm not good looking, maybe I didn't deserve this, or maybe I deserve this. So it's very easy for your brain to kind of put these thoughts in your head. So the best thing you can do is just be aware of them. As soon as you get them, write them down, right? So rather than ignoring them, just write them down and see where your brain is going. So there was like an experiment which is done, which is basically as soon as a thought comes in your mind, you write down your thoughts, right? So most often or not, what tends to happen is what you'll find is that I can't remember the exact stat, but there's over like 10,000 or 100,000 thoughts that happen within the brain in a day. So if you learn that most of the thoughts that you're going to have are going to be negative, then you can start to pick them up. But if you're not aware that these thoughts are coming and going, and you'll just tend to not be aware of them, then you're not going to be able to deal with it properly. So learn to kind of see where your mind is at. If you want to know where your mind is at, literally just spend a day to yourself on a day off, see where your brain is headed. If it's heading towards negative routes, then you can kind of learn to deal with them. And you can ask yourself the question, why am I dealing like this? Why am I feeling like this? Why do I feel I'm not good enough? And if you want to feel good enough, just be around people that appreciate you. Because a mother's love is probably the best form of love that there is. It's the closest form of love to, like, let's just say God. That's what it's described as. You know your mother's always going to love you unconditionally no matter what. So just be around those that have unconditional love towards you. You can have friends that obviously are really, really good friends. So you can be around those and just do things that you love to get back into the state of love. That's how you can kind of transition back.
And you've also answered my second question as well, Prabjot, about the question about love, and apa show that end aane wala ya, and some key aspects to take away from today's show. Often ਜਦੋਂ ਵੀ ਕੋਈ ਵੀ ਸੋਚ ਆਂਦੀ ਹੈ ਸਾਡੇ ਦਿਮਾਗ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ, this is generally speaking not just for men's emotions but also generally for everybody to take away home today, ਕਿ ਜਦੋਂ ਕੋਈ ਵੀ ਮਨ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਕੋਈ ਖਿਆਲ ਆਂਦਾ ਹੈ, ਕੋਈ ਸੋਚ ਆਂਦੀ ਆ, not to react on it straight away. Often ਹੜਬੜੀ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ, ਕਾਹਲੀ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਜਦੋਂ ਅਸੀਂ ਕੋਈ ਵੀ decision ਲੈਂਦੇ ਆ, ਉਹਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਸਾਡਾ ਹੀ ਨੁਕਸਾਨ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਆ, ਕਿਸੇ ਹੋਰ ਦਾ ਨੁਕਸਾਨ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਹੈਗਾ. And often if we are feeling a negative emotion, try and write the emotion down. Write it on a piece of paper and write that emotion down. When you write that emotion down, then try and write the opposite of it. So if you feel like, I don't feel great about myself because, and I am upset, I am crying because of this reason, then write the opposite. Actually, I am this, I am strong, I am positive, because, and list all the good things in your life. So, Javike, Serte Shatya, Rotia, I have a job, that pays everything. I have kapre, I have basics of a water. Write down a gratitude of things in your life that will, make you kind of think of the opposite side of the page than the negative side. Something to take away today. But ਤੁਸੀਂ ਫਿਕਰ ਨਾ ਕਰਿਓ, ਅਸੀਂ ਅਗਲੇ ਹਫਤੇ ਫਿਰ ਆਵਾਂਗੇ and ਅਗਲੇ ਹਫਤੇ ਇੱਕ ਹੋਰ topic ਲੈ ਕੇ ਆਵਾਂਗੇ. Thank you, Prabjot, for joining us. Really appreciate your time and all your views and opinions that you have given today. And for everyone that's watching, Waiguru Ji Ka Khalsa, the Waiguru Ji Ki Fateh.